Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another anime review, and this being my next video in the anime reviews. I am covering Eden Zero episodes 1 to 12. So what I'll be doing is I'll be covering it in arcs, the characters, and also some of the things that turn up within the series, and I'll try to get the racing in towards the end. So starting off, we sort of move into the first arc, which is basically a registration arc, but this doesn't happen until we start off meeting the character of Shiki and of course the Demon King on the planet to which he's on. I'm sorry if I'm not very descriptive on like all the parts that take place in this story. I'm still very new to Hiro Mashima and also understanding the role of the characters. So in the first arc we encounter Shiki, who you also see who's at front on the panel here, and he meets up with Rebecca, who's right behind him, who has Happy with her, and she learns that he's on a planet that's practically run by robots, and the Demon King that he lives with is now dead. From there he ends up traveling with Rebecca to basically get a registration, like after the king's death, whatever else, when he's a little bit older. And after turning up there, we slowly move into the next arc, to which they travel to, sorry, I forget the planet's name again, or the next planet's name, but this is where they encounter Weiss, or Professor Weiss, who you see on the left-hand side. And there's another new character to which we end up meeting. Now, when she first met Weiss, he was actually a little bit older, but when she turns up to the planet, we realize that something has sort of like taken the planet captive. Oh, Norma. The planet's called Norma, and as they sort of like go into the location to where Professor Weiss is, it's basically gone back 50 years because of this particular space parasite of sorts. Now, they're called the chronopage, and some of its consequences when it goes onto a planet, and depending, I think, on its size as well, it really affects sort of like how many years a planet can be affected. A little bit later on, you do encounter one which can take off 1,200 years. That's the small of it. So this sort of brings us into the space-time arc, and we end up meeting with Professor Weiss and moving into sort of like seeing some of his background before she sort of like got to know the older Dr. Weiss. And it's very interesting how it brings it across. And the narrator for this story, as it was brought up in the latest episode, or episode 12, is Zhao Mei. And you get to hear some of her narration throughout the story, but only in certain parts. Then after they do escape from Norma, even from its 50-year time lapse that they're sort of stuck in, of course you learn Weiss has a bit of a dark past and used to be a bit of a thief, whatever else. But you also learn that this character also has ether technology, or ether gear. But you also learn that with Shiki too, but you pretty much learned that in the first couple of episodes, but it does move across into the next couple of episodes as you see new people actually using other different types of ether gear. The ether gear that we end up seeing is the gravity, the one which Shiki uses, the tech ether gear, to which we see Weiss uses. Later on, you do actually learn that Rebecca has ether gear, but we don't know what it's going to be yet. And I didn't get to watch episode 13. I thought about it, but I thought I'd leave it. As we move into the third arc, it's basically the Eden Zero ship arc, and what happens here is that Shiki and Rebecca plus Weiss also take a trip onto what is believed to be a space pirate ship. They soon find out that this space pirate ship actually belonged to the Demon King. In other words, Shiki, the person who looked after Shiki before he passed away. And the place is practically infested with like a space parasite. And they have to go through, practically clean it up. And in that time period, Shiki has to sort of like reach the boss who's sort of like running the ship. But we also learned that the boss that's running the ship is also one of the parasites and not who you think it is. And it was very well done. You didn't expect it within the story, but it was nice to see it in the story. Moving into the fourth arc, we start to move in a B-Cuba Abduction Arc. Now, this sort of takes up roughly, I think, 3 episodes. And from there, we get to see Rebecca, who ends up being kidnapped, and Shiki encounters sort of like a new rival, which is like a ninja, and he gets really excited when he sort of like meets new people because he wants to make new friends along the way. So in a way, this sort of feels like Hunter x Hunter, but it's not Hunter x Hunter. It's almost as if, what if Hunter x Hunter went into space? Yeah, okay, we got to meet the character or the parental figure for Shiki at the beginning. But now we're sort of like learning something else as well with Shiki in this particular arc. And you can see that he's paying attention to certain details. Yeah, where he lacks in naivety, he makes it up in sort of like fighting to protect his friends. And that was really good. I liked that. And he's always pushing to make new friends along the way. And in that, it sort of felt like Comey can't communicate. Because one of Comey's things that she wanted to do was make 100 friends. And you sort of see that similar with Shiki. Now, how much that compares to the manga, I don't know. And in this, we end up going to a place called Gilst, to which Shiki and Weiss, and also in the space arc, I forgot to bring up, we end up meeting the character Witch, who is a character that can, in a way, sort of like completely repair the ship and also take care of the occupants on the ship. But she's not the only occupant who's part of the ship. And one of the people that we also another person that we end up encountering in this B-Cuba Abduction Arc is Sister Ivory. And with Sister Ivory, you find out that she was actually kidnapped on the planet Gilst where they were on. And a character sort of like took advantage of her and her powers, or basically copied her and her powers to use for their own evil means. We also encounter a new character in this arc by the name of Homura. From there, the journey continues after this for the search of Hermit, to which Shiki is looking for, and also Valkyrie, to which is both looking for, as well as Shiki is looking for. And you also learn that sort of Weiss is looking for the character too. And it's really interesting in the journey. Now, last but not least, one of the last Ether Gear things that we do encounter on this last arc is the Soul Ether Gear. And in it, you learn that the character that uses the Soul Ether Gear can sort of like turn their Ether Gear into sort of like ether blades. And they remind you a little bit like the lightsaber, even though they're not the lightsaber. It has quite a bit to it, and you learn that in Shiki's fight with Homura. But that's only left for a time being until he goes to save the other B-Cubers plus Rebecca, because she's a B-Cuber, and Happy. And along the way, you also see things that happen with Happy. You also see the character of Pino and what Pino is able to do, who's able to release a EMP wave. Happy is a robot themselves, even though they don't look like a robot. They're able to turn into guns for Rebecca, and that's really clever in the story. As for Weiss's, with his gear, he's able to basically turn something into, say, like a type of tech gun. Like, you can use his tech gear to interact with the environment, and if he wants to do something to sort of like get up the fences, he could like place his hand on the ground, and through that, the ground will sort of like reform to what he actually needs it for. So if it's, say, a shield, he could change it to a shield. If he needs, say, something more offensive like a gun, he could change it to a gun. And that is really clever within the story. Well, I might as well move to the last thing in this, and that is the rating. Like I said, I'm very new to the Hiro Mashima universe, and I can't wait to start the manga of this, of what I have seen so far in regards to the anime. So, main characters. Of what I watched and saw with the interaction with the main characters, I gave them a 7.5 out of 10. The supporting characters received the same rating of 7.5 out of 10. The anime, for the animation, how much did I enjoy it? I thought it was actually pretty good. Same in regards to the subtitles for the story, to which I gave it an 8 out of 10. The overall story, I gave a 7.5 out of 10. Well, until then, please don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.